Fraudcast, everybody. My name is Gena Rivera. Like I said, I host this weekly with Vito, and the Fraudcast is a space where we could come together on a regular basis, folks in the e-commerce, fraud, and risk space, to have a regular place to come together and hear about what's going on in the industry, hear from other, passionate professionals in the space, what they're doing, what they're working on, what they're seeing, trends that we're seeing on our side, and pretty much everything related to fraud. This is a really great place for you to come with any questions that you might have if you're seeing things in your day-to-day work that you would like to maybe pressure test with other people, get their perspectives on. Maybe they're seeing the same things, get some advice on how to tackle certain challenges. This is a really great place to do exactly that. Vito is going to bring a little something to the table just to get things started. But really anything is fair game. So if you have something you're coming into this session not related to the topic that we're talking about, that's totally fine. You could totally bring that up. I encourage you to participate in the chat or raise your hand. There should be an option to do that in your Zoom menu. And then if for whatever reason you would like to ask a question anonymously, you can do that. There is a function at the bottom of your screen in order to do that as well. We do, as I said earlier, do this on a regular basis every Wednesday at the same time. And so if you join us again, you'll see some familiar faces. So please do introduce yourself in the chat, whether you have joined us before or this is your first time. We love to know who's in the room. So obviously your name, maybe your title, the company you're with, and where you're calling from. We have people from all over the place. It's kind of fun to see from where everybody is. So please do introduce yourself in the chat. And if you would like to, please share your LinkedIn so you can connect with other people. I know that sometimes people bring up really interesting things and people have sidebar conversations. So it's really nice to kind of keep the conversation going outside of this space. And also, last thing I'll say is if you are able to, please do be on camera with us. It's always nice to see everybody's faces if you can. If you're not able to today, that's totally fine. But we love when we can see everybody's faces and it feels like a real conversation. So if you're able to do that, please do. And with that being said, I'm going to hand things over to Vito.
What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome back. There's so much to talk about today. And I'm sure you kind of have heard about this before, but I believe, and I'm not easily, moved, honestly. I'm pretty much, I've kind of seen it all, I feel like, in my advanced age, but I believe we're on the precipice of the biggest move in our industry yet. And that is through agentic checkout, agentic commerce. Agents, AI agents making transactions for people, buying for people automatically. And I think all of us need to steel ourselves in this space and get ready now. And if we're continuing the conversation we had with Brian last week, we need to know what alliances to form, which friends to make across our companies so that we can be the people who, make sure that the rails are set up now before things go haywire. And we said, I told you so, etc. So without further ado, let me share this little screen right here. We're going to talk about some esoteric literature too today to kind of like put it all into context, right? Agentic checkout, my friends. That's the buzzword, the $10 word. And it's an inventory of the current situation that can be eliminated by more feed forward. What is feed forward? That's like a fancy little term coined by this guy right here. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Marshall McLuhan. Raise your hands in the chat. Shout out to all my McLuhanites who are in attendance today. McLuhan came up with the term World Wide Web, right? McLuhan's book, War and Peace in the Global Village, is what I was sitting out back by the chicken run this weekend reading. And as I'm reading it, I'm scratching my chin saying, oh boy, like this is exactly where we're at today. McLuhan's writing in 1968. He's talking about the world that is just about to change in relation to television and this coming electric age, the advent of computers and all that kind of fun stuff. I believe we're there right now in terms of a new turning of our technology technological age. And McLuhan was a big fan of this guy right here, James Joyce. I might be bringing back some horrible memories of high school or even college for you, but Joyce's Finnegan's Wake is one of those books that kind of gets misunderstood slash like slapped over the head of people. And Finnegan's Wake, he's writing in 39, right as the world is about to change entirely, with World War II right on the precipice. And both of these works are very mosaical in their kind of you know their construction, where you can look into it and you can see anything you want. Yeah, it might be a story about the Easter Bunny if you look at it a certain way, but I believe both of these stories are telling us about worlds that are changing and the coming kind of beauties and horrors of new worlds. I want us to be steeled for the beauties and horrors of this new world of agentic checkout. So where do we begin? We begin with a quote by Marshall McLuhan, and I want you to kind of ruminate on this one for a little bit, chew on it if you will. He says in 1968, now that we live in an electric environment, it's natural that we have new perceptions that destroy the monopoly and priority of visual space, making this older space look as bizarre as a medieval coat of arms over the door of a chemistry lab. And I think that same kind of level of bizarreness that's going on, that shocking kind of quality, is inherent in agentic checkout. So, what is agentic checkout? It's automatic, autonomous purchasing. Basically, everybody is going to have, whether you want it or not, you're going to have an agent at your fingertips that's making automatic purchases for you. It's reordering the stuff that you need to fill up your pantry. It's, finding that dream item for you when it goes on sale or when it goes to that price point that you desire. It's tracking the prices off different pages. It's skimming your sites and it's saying, okay, well, we know that typically this e-commerce storefront puts their sales at this time. We know that these SKUs after a certain amount of time are going to be reduced in price, so we're going to wait for them to pull the trigger. And it's allowing me to fully customize when I enter the market. So there's a lot of implications there already. Finally, the personalization element, right? I'm going to know that, if I'm Blaze's agent, I'm going to know what Blaze likes, what he doesn't like. And maybe I'll just go out and buy something for him that he might like. And when I do the things for him that he might like, he might not like that, or he might love that. I don't know. I think a lot of people are taking bets that he might love that. But anticipating your needs before you ever articulate them is the kind of name of the game. So what does this look like? Well, I think Joyce had a great quote about what this kind of looks like. If you've read Finnegan's Wake before, if you tried to read it, it's in 70 different languages. I mean, in the book, not that it's been translated into 70 different languages. It's in 70 different languages. There's diagrams, there's kind of notated music. It's kind of a slog to get through. But anytime you pick apart something, you kind of see something beautiful in it. And Joyce writes, and you can peep inside the cerebralized saucepan of this ill-winded good for nobody. You would see in his house of thoughtsome what a jetsome literages of convolvuli of times lost or strayed, of lands derelict and of tongues lagging too, and equally so the crame of the whole Faustian fustian, though a day be as dense as a decade. My friends, we are living in the time where a day is as dense as a decade. Because look at this. In the last month alone, you have seen these headlines, I can imagine. And if you haven't seen these headlines, here they are. MasterCard, Visa, Google, everybody leading the charge in agentic AI, revolutionizing how everybody shops online. As you know, I mean, in this household, we're kind of Luddites, right? But we don't use Google anymore to do our searches. Everything is through ChatGPT. I'm sure many of you are experiencing that as well. So who's doing this? It's everybody. All the big players are unleashing their agentic AIs into the world tomorrow. As I said before, as Joyce wrote so beautifully, a day is as dense as a decade. Look at some of the features around their products. I want you to call your attention to the MasterCard offering here. Agentic tokens, they're tokenizing your payment method. We're going to get into that in a second. On device biometrics. If we're getting into a world that is going to be bot driven through AI, the desire to figure out who is the real human behind this is only going to become more and more pressing, which, as I'm going to get into here in a second, is going to lead to a whole lot of questions about how we do business, what we're looking for, etc. So everyone's doing it. It's not just some niche thing. And that not only is everyone doing it, it's been done already. It's just a matter of time before it hits you. So, what do we need to worry about? What do we need to think? Well, we need to kind of see it in all of its many multifaceted ways. And you know what? Joyce had a great quote behind that too. Admittedly, it is an outer husk. Its face, in all its featureful perfection of imperfection, is its fortune. It exhibits only the civil or military clothing of whatever passion pallid nudity or plague purple nakedness may happen to tuck itself under its flat. TLDR, layman's version of that, it looks like whatever you want it to look like in many ways. And this is what's behind the curtain. This is what's, the moving parts are like. First off, that tokenization bit that I was just talking about earlier. Okay. So your credit card, your payment instrument, whatever it will be, your bank number even, is going to be wholly replaced by this 16-digit network token. And that token is going to be modified and kind of personalized to have spending limits on it, limitations of SKUs. Think about like allowing your kids to buy things. Think about stopping you from those 2 a.m. like, I want this, I want that. Hey, you don't really need it after a certain time. You know what I'm saying? That impulse buying may or may not be controlled through tokenization. This is something that you really need to think about. This flies in the face of our industry right here. Headless checkout endpoints. Okay. All of this is going to be running on APIs that basically don't look like a device at all, don't have a graphic user interface, don't have any sort of, you know, kind of setup, any sort of data point that says this is Allie's iPhone. This is Ryan's laptop. It is going to be completely headless, like we think bots are today, like bots are actually today. Those bots are going to be operating in super quick time all across the world, coming out of places that are far flung. These are the things that we tend to see as fraudulent today. Hey, this bot made like 19 transactions in the last 20 seconds to delivery addresses all over the country. It's going to manage the cart. It's going to manage the processing of the payment. It's going to take a look and make sure that it's picking the right things, we hope, we think, in terms of inventory validation. And then it's going to apply discounts for us automatically. Hmm. Okay. Hmm. Product information APIs, right? It's going to be skimming and scraping your website to make sure that it's in the right ballpark. If your website isn't optimized for this, perhaps it might be buying something that isn't in the ballpark of what this buyer is going to be looking for. And you know what happens after that: return, chargeback, dispute. And that's going to be fun in terms of card not present, buyer not present, human not clicking the button. How does that, play out? That's going to be a little wild. Post purchase APIs. So, how is it tracked? How is this order tracked? Where's the shipping status? Is it reading the right policy terms? Does it know that all sales are final on the things that it's buying? Is it speaking the language that you want it to speak? Is it reading what you want to be read? This is kind of terrifying stuff in many ways. Are we ready for this? And finally, agent protocol APIs. Basically, your website is going to need to be optimized to control and store the logs that are showing the thinking behind the agent, that are showing the agent contacting your agent, right? It's AI with AI, having those conversations, seeing why things were done. A lot of this, I think, is CYA for you. Are we ready for that? Is this going to be force fed down our throats? Are we going to be told that we needed this yesterday? I think we are. So, I, if you remember when I was talking about MRC, my whole talk before I even knew what agentic AI was at MRC was how VAMP and a growing privacy conscious buyer base was going to lead to the year of the false positive. I fear that this is only exacerbating perhaps the era of the false positive. All new technologies bring on cultural blues, just as the old ones evoke phantom pain after they have disappeared. What are those blues? What kind of tunes are we singing? How's our world going to change a little bit? And where are the pain points going to be? Friction is going to be the first thing that we redefine and reconsider. It's going to be like you're sitting with your grandkids on your lap saying, in my day, we used to think this was friction, but y'all don't even think that way anymore. So we know already, we kind of look at bots in a certain over scrutinizing fashion, right? We think we can tell a good bot from a bad bot, but identifying the bot is just the beginning of it. What's the intent, right? I foresee so many false positive declines on these kind of orders. Once these hit your ecosystem, it's going to be very difficult unless you're having the right conversations in those early days, i.e., right now, that you're getting some sort of feedback around what the specific Google bot, what the specific Amex, Visa, MasterCard bot looks like and does in order to say, I'm going to accept those and not these. It really flies into the face of a lot of rules driven decisioning around bots, around kind of, you know, the uh these Superman kind of bots that are going all around the world and operating very quickly. It flies in the face of a lot of our conventional thinking. And we're going to have to find a way to approve those without opening ourselves up to a lot of problems. That's the trusted agent dilemma, right? In this invisible landscape that we're already in, how do we know that that invisible thing is not like that other invisible thing? It's quite difficult. And I think that we're going to get into a realm of prove your humanity. As I showed you earlier, the MasterCard agent already has on device biometrics built into it. So I can see a big player in this space saying, hey, if you want to operate in this way, if you want to take advantage of this new offering we got, we're going to give you a real sweetheart deal, but there's going to be some sort of biometric authentication that you're perhaps unfamiliar with in the context of e-commerce, whether it's a thumbprint scan, whether it's a scan with one of your wearables that are coming on the market very soon. Who knows? But I think that prove your humanity move is going to be more and more pressing as we try to get past that trusted agent dilemma. Liability. We talked about this briefly earlier. If the card's not present and the human's not pressing the buttons, who's on the page for this or who's on the hook for this? Also, we know that these card brands are offering their own agentic commerce agents. So I'm sure that as they're doing that, they're also behind the scenes saying, well, we're not going to be liable for this, that, or the other thing. When 8,000 bottles of shampoo show up on my front doorstep, well, I told you so. You got to kind of be careful with your agent and what they're buying for you, right? Fraud evolved. We know bad actors love to get their hands on the latest and greatest. But if we're in that trusted agent dilemma space where some bots are good, most of them are good, a lot of them are bad, can I use AI to mimic AI, to be like AI, to seem like AI? Is it the next generation or this generation's digital wallet where we thought Apple Pay and Google Pay were perfect instruments of security, and then all of a sudden we see how they're compromised today? Can we easily say that nobody is going to mimic the buyer agent for Google, Amex, MasterCard, et cetera? How do we tell the difference? Where do we begin? Well, one of the main themes or one of the main repeated notions in Finnegan's Wake is this idea of here comes everybody. Everybody's showing up to this guy's house in the story. He's asleep and everyone's there. Here comes everybody. Here calls everywhere. Here's everybody that you need to get on the side of your mission. Here's everybody that you need to BFF up with in order to make sure that you are leading the conversation around this coming paradigm shift. First and foremost, your IT teams, engineering, platform developments, because there's going to have to be some sort of API strategy around this. And what better position to put yourself in than to say, hey, I'd love to see the APIs we're developing to speak with these agentic agents, because there's going to be a lot of information that we want to collect. Heck, I just want to know what's collectible at this stage and how we can inform our fraud policies moving forward, how we can position ourselves in the most advantageous way in regards to risk in terms of what comes in and what goes out, et cetera. It's a great conversation to have. How do we authenticate our buyers? What kind of security do we have around this? You're going to want to be a trusted advisor in this capacity. And heck, it's just kind of an interesting conversation to have. Again, I'm piggybacking on what Brian told us last week about making those connections. I don't know if Shelly's here. I don't think Shelly's here, but this is straight out of the Susie School of Communications, right? These are the conversational points you go with your product information management teams, your merchandising teams, your catalog teams. All of them are going to have to optimize their offerings like we optimize for SEO. They're going to have to optimize their offerings to give the correct information to the agent that is looking to check out. This is going to help you downstream. This is going to prevent a lot of those item not as described, all that kind of like dissatisfaction element is going to be mitigated right here. How are we listing our stuff? What are we showing? CX, of course, your CX teams, right? How are we set up to resolve disputes that were purchased through the agentic platforms? What happens after an agent makes an order for us? How are we kind of following that through? That's a huge conversation to have because your CX teams are also going to get those phone calls. And are those phone calls coming from humans? Are they coming from bots? I know I sound a little doolally here, but like we're in this right now. It's not George Jetson stuff. Like we're here right now. I'm here to remind you of that. Finance and payments, right? How are we labeling and identifying these transactions? If you're thinking like me, I have my web channel, I have my mobile app channel. What channel are we using to create new parameters and thresholds for agentic checkout, right? How are we identifying that from coming in? Is it all going to be looped into our web channel, our mobile app channel, et cetera? We want to make sure we've got that now before it happens. Finally, legal and compliance. Those are always fun conversations to have, right? Are we set up for data privacy around this? What happens if somebody's bot is compromised? What happens if people are spinning up fake bots and injecting other people's information into them? What do we do there? They're probably going to have a lot of questions for you. So you got to do your homework a little bit in advance of that. Who's on the hook for these orders placed by an agent? Who's liable for this? Are all orders final that are placed through agentic checkout? What what does that look like? How much is at stake there? A lot of it is speculative, but I can imagine if we see the rise and adoption of things like ChatGPT for traditional Google searches and how quickly that's been upended, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be jumping on this very quickly, especially if it's kind of bolstered by the card brands. And then your terms of service, which kind of back that up as well. When it is an agentic checkout, we do this and we don't do that. We guarantee this and not that. Those questions are going to come your way, whether it's next week, next month, or in 6 months. I think it's somewhere in the middle of that. You're going to have to be ready for it. So, I just spoke about a lot of stuff, a lot of heady things, a lot of like game changing stuff. Where are you at with this? What are you thinking about agentic checkout, the use of AI in commerce? What have you heard? What do you hear? What do you say? As we said in New Jersey, where I grew up, I'd love to hear from you. And I've also loved to take a sip out of this beautiful water jug while you think about it.
Kind of funny you bring it up because I've just recently been working with a customer with some promo abuse, and he was piggybacking off of coupons. But then when we spoke with him, he said that he just thought he was being a very savvy shopper. Come to find out, he's reselling in the New York area, and he's piggybacking off of buy a battery pack, get a tool for free, and then he goes and gets a 10% off cancellation coupon to be able to use. And then on top of that, free shipping. And so when I talked with him, he said he was using like Honey, and it's a Google extension he has that just finds these promotions and adds them to his orders. And so you bringing it up today, I'm like, oh my goodness, it kind of puts everything together. But it was something that we've spoken with our purchasing department and marketing about what we're going to do. And really, at this point, all we can do is flag his orders and see if he's trying to double dip. We did try to shut him down, but he does want to be a customer. And um, depending on reselling and vendor agreements and things like that, is all dependent upon what we can and can't allow. But yeah, I have already seen kind of some of that in the promotional engines and how that's working.
Pay heed, my friends. Pay heed to Jessica's warning. She's coming from the front lines and running back. It's happening already. Now, Jessica, there's so much to unpack there, right? I can imagine your wish list would somewhere include, hey, I'd love to see orders from Honey flagged in some sort of way. But that seems to be, I hate to be defeatist, seems to be a little bit of an impossible ask, right?
Yeah, and the thing is he says it automatically applies the coupons. And so when I've asked him like what are, because I know that there's coupon programs out there where you can go log in and get a coupon, and I was thinking he was manually adding them. But he's like, no, it's a Google extension and it just does it for me. And I'm like, what? What is this? So yeah, and so it's just kind of monitoring those a little bit more and just being aware of it because I had no idea what was going on.
And honey on steroids is what we're talking about here, right? If I had to download that extension to do that, all I have to do is simply go into the user interface of whatever GPT I want to use and say, here's my stuff. Have at it, buddy. Get me the cheapest computer you can find at the right time. Justin,
Yeah.
are you also feeling the heat? Are you tasting the honey, my friend?
Oh, I like to. I like to if I can. I was just gonna say, kudos to Jessica for getting on the phone with that customer. From our experience, there's been some. We've run into some situations too, where like over the last year and a half, we've introduced a membership program, right? Where there's an annual fee and it can renew, but there's a lot of perks. One big one is hey, no return fees, right? No check-in or handling fees on returns, and there's a bunch of other stuff that comes with it. And another thing was like, yeah, certain types of promo codes and different offers. But what we've had to point out to our marketing department is we found that even within the membership, there are people that will take advantage of opportunities to abuse the system. And just to kind of circle back around to Jessica's story, I have found, and it may not be possible to do it with everybody, but if you can get on the phone with some of these people and just have a conversation with them and say, hey, look, you know, we're a business, and in most cases, I like to tell people, I say, hey, look, we're still a small business, despite what you might believe or how big we are based on advertising you see online. Like, we're real people, we're a small business, like, have to make money. And when you participate in this type of stuff, it's not, one upping some, non-human entity. It's hurting us. And like, we want to be fair to both sides, but like, if you get into a conversation with them, and I'm glad to hear that Jessica was actually able to kind of get some information out of this guy, because that kind of helps us on our end say, hey, look, where can we make the adjustments? We I'm going to go off the rails here a little bit, but and I apologize for doing it. There was some TV show like 15, 17 years ago, one of these reality TV show experiments. It was called Bait Car. I don't know if anybody ever saw that. It was maybe a season or two, but what the premise of it is like these people would go into these rougher neighborhoods with like a fancy Escalade or some nice vehicle, and the vehicle would have cameras inside and would have the ability to be shut down remotely. But someone would be on the phone, they'd hop out of the car, pretend like, oh, I got to run over here and grab something. And sure enough, there were a bunch of shady individuals looking around, and it was just too tempting for them to steal the car. And so I apologize for that analogy there, but like when we try to work with our marketing team, everybody else to say, look, we want to remove the temptation for these people who we believe are probably good people, but they're just maybe savvy, just trying to look to, one up the system a little bit. Let's try to remove any temptations as much as possible. Let's not, put something in there that they can think, oh, this would be really nice if I did this. And so that bait car thing, I think they realized that was maybe not a good thing to do. You were certainly guaranteed to have a certain outcome. These people ended up going to jail, but it was too hard to resist. But good job, Jeff. Sorry for being long-winded.
I love it. I mean, we're talking Finnegan's Wake and War and Peace in the Global Village. We might as well bring some reality TV into it. You're bringing up a great point, though. Aside from great shows, both of you, if we can quantify now what's easily, what the shiny objects are, that can work in an advantageous way and be manipulated, be taken advantage of by certain individuals. How is that going to look for the non-human individual who is completely data driven and can probably see through the luster, even maybe the things that aren't so spiffy are still kind of vectors for you to be taken advantage of. So my advice to both of you right now would be to put some sort of quantification around that, especially through these calls. I love the fact that while we're doing our investigative motion and talking to people, the H word comes out. How? Like, how did you do this? No judgment, but like, I would just love to know how you did this. That how automatically gives you like, hey, we gotta tighten up on this thing. This thing is being taken advantage of. And if the humans are smart enough to take advantage of this thing, and I sound crazy when I say that, the robots are going to do it too, right? If the humans can see through it and like take advantage of it and make something great happen, clearly some sort of agentic agent or agentic, some sort of agentic checkout bot is going to be like no brainer. I'm going after that. And if you tell me I have to spin up an account to get it, that'll take me 2 nanoseconds to do. So boom, got that too. This is the landscape where it's going to move a whole lot more quickly. It's going to be so much there's going to be so much more volume. It's going to be much more difficult to spot this before it is a massive problem. So, Ben, Honey and Capital One find promo codes automatically, and you earn points when using those programs. Honey keeps track of the product history and notifies you when it is at its lowest price on Amazon. Capital One helps find the cheapest price on other third party selling sites. Again, imagine all of that. That's already here, right? That's already here. Imagine all of that on steroids. Where do you think you're going to be pulled in? Where and when and how are you going to be pulled into this conversation? And is it going to be too late? That's what I'd like to know from you. I'd also like to welcome Paul LeBlanc to the show. Welcome, Paul. But yeah, where, like, does all of this, how many of you are saying this is just kind of, dust in the wind? This is like a flavor of the week type stuff. I'm not here to poo-poo that. I mean, I've been perhaps easily swayed before in the past, but when I see this and I read about this, I think this is coming directly onto our turf in e-commerce. And the ways in which we're traditional, the things we talk about, the methods we use to investigate are very much a low-tech solution to what's going to be a very high-tech problem. Am I wrong? I've got the bulletproof vest on. Fire away, my friends.
I think that it is definitely what the way of the world is going to be turning to for sure. I think that people like things easy, and if you can ever invent something that makes people not have to work so hard, you're gonna become rich. And so, a lot of the times, I think that like we might, and at least here, we're starting to see it with promotions. It also just wanted to point out that it also made us have to relook at our promotion engine to see where we're missing things, like Justin was mentioning, but it also like where promotions were built incorrectly. What limitations do we have with our promotional engine that we do build? The other thing is he kept telling me Honey, but then when I've done research, like Ben mentioned, it's for Amazon and we don't sell on Amazon. So there is something else out there that he's using that he didn't give me the name to, but he was very adamant about. It was nice having this conversation, but he was kind of shocked. Like, what do you mean I can't add these promotions? Like it was done for me automatically and all of that. And although like he spent like he spent less money in orders with us than he has received discounts on. And so just with that alone, it's like, how did you not like you? He doesn't work in the retail world. He's like, I don't work in the retail world, but he does work on Facebook Marketplace. And so it's things like that, just kind of, if that's like the type of customer mindset for like a reseller, I think it's just a short matter of time of where regular customers are going to get a hold of that. And it makes me wonder, where am I missing those other customers without even knowing what they're doing? So I think it might start with the promotions, but I do definitely see it happening with placing online orders and what they might want. And I'm not gonna lie, it kind of scares me because I'm like, this is, I definitely see it happening, but what are we going to do? And I think it's, like you said, working with IT, working with the different departments, working with marketing, purchasing, and letting them know it even exists so that we can start thinking about what are we going to do.
That unknown is kind of terrifying, right? And yeah, I love that you brought up, Jessica, the fact that this person isn't one of us, right? They don't, and no longer do you need to be one of us to be better than us, right? That's terrifying. You know my system better than I even know it. And you didn't even do anything other than put a search term into your GPT. Now, Kathleen brings up a great point. Data is gold. I find that to combat this, we need to monitor patterns and be vigilant of new trends. I love that, Kathleen, and I'm wondering if you could add on this. One of the conversational points that I brought up was getting into those discussions with your IT team around API strategy. We're all very lucky right now that and correct me if I'm wrong, it hasn't happened yet for you in terms of, some big agentic checkout machine coming online and doing lots of volume on your site. Kathleen, and if you can come off mute, that'd be great. But if you were in those conversations today, and anyone else can answer this too, if you were having those conversations today, what kind of data points would you be, adamant that I need to have this? We don't have it right now. We got to make sure we have this before it's too late.
We monitor our orders regularly. So there's going to be weekly orders, but also with our order processing, there's someone out there reviewing them, checking if we are going under margin. So just those outliers, once they see that, they flag management and we review them immediately.
And when you do, thank you for that. It's amazing. When you do the reviews, are y'all doing are you reaching out to these individuals, getting the who, what, when, where, why, how on it? Or is it just like kind of an automated thing where, okay, we're going to reject these or we're just going to stop them? How does that work for you, Kathleen?
So I've been in the thick of reviewing them before. Aside from reviewing what the pattern is on what the fraud is actually happening, we also review like the person who placed this. Do we have any historical records from this address, this person, the email address? And from there, he will see the other patterns that they used as well in the past. So it's all interconnected. So it helps us identify like the bigger scam that's happening.
Fantastic stuff. And I'm sure you're a little shocked to think that very soon those patterns will be completely and utterly obfuscated and obliterated through automated purchasing, through headless browsers, through things that don't necessarily have a fingerprint, through IP addresses that aren't linked to anybody, devices that are just invisible, all this kind of wild stuff. But I'm sweating even just thinking about it. So I'm sure you're getting a little or maybe not. You sound like an expert investigator, so maybe you've got a little more confidence than I've got here, Kathleen. But I appreciate
so much.
Yeah. We're just humans. Now, I want to put someone on the spot real quick. Allie, you brought up these couponing groups and that they're a gold mine of information. I'm wondering if you can share your experience with couponing groups, who they are, what kind of information you've got out of them, because I can guarantee you that at least one person here, that's this guy right here, will be looking into those couponing groups after this. And there's probably another 2 or 3 brave souls who will be doing it too. So floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, so I work at Ibotta, and so we're not where the transaction happens, but we credit people based on them. So it's either like CPG, you bought the product, you get the credit, or site-wide cashback, you purchased on Nike.com, you get a percentage back. So in those cases, like we're just kind of like the after effect of the purchase that's already happened. So a lot of the stuff that we're looking at is like where people are stacking coupons, where people are maybe like finding an error. There's something that happened where, we had a setup issue on a bonus and a bunch of people got $20 for doing almost nothing. So trying to tackle some of those things and understand like the fraud risks there, because obviously that looks a little suspicious if a bunch of people just got a free $20 and then trying to keep the false positives down for those things. But Facebook has a lot of information, Reddit, and they'll just share. There's crazy coupon lady who will like find some of these things and broadly share them. And even if it's like a glitch or something that shouldn't be there, she will share it. And when it gets shut down, she'll let people know. So following some of those places has definitely helped to alert people. It often is not like people trying to defraud the system. It's just like we've been talking about, like, look at this great deal, and then people sharing it around. But if you can get into some of those, you can find a lot of information. Or if they're like, Ibotta is all about earning cash back, and so there are Ibotta groups specifically to try to track those down. But in some of these other cases where you're working for the retailer specifically, I'm sure there are groups that are like Safeway couponing or Sam's Club couponing, and you can kind of get into those and see what things people are noticing.
A fantastic point. I'm going to be following Crazy Coupon Lady once we get off this call. Paula was talking about this Rakuten manufactured spending deal not long ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago. So people who are kind of opening up new cards to take advantage of certain things to get those $20 cashbacks. And it's wild now how broad this ecosystem is, right? So your brand is not the ground zero anymore for this. And yeah, right now we're talking about me going out and following Crazy Coupon Lady and reading Reddit. But in the world of agentic checkout, which we're in, which isn't some sort of like jetpacks, Jetsons kind of thing, we're in it right now. I don't even need to follow Crazy Coupon Lady. I just need to tell my agent, go out and make it work for me, buddy. And they've got all the crazy coupon ladies across the world. They've got all the indexed Reddit and everything like that. So it's about to get really spicy. Some of those couponing groups, per Ben, let you know how successful each promo code is and for what time. It's a lot of data. And who loves a lot of data more than a large language model that is built to please you? Thank you, Ben. I am here to make you happy, Ben. I found all the coupons for you, Ben. Oh boy. So if this was interesting to you, first off, let me thank you for the opportunity to bring up one of my favorite books and all this kind of fun stuff. I love, if you want a good read, I'm telling you, this was $10 online. It is a great read. There's a lot of pictures in it. There's a lot of talk about baseball. Justin, you'd get a kick out of it. You'd love it. And if you want to really feel like, you're in the middle of some sort of episode, you know what I mean? You read Finnegan's Wake and you'll be like, well, I thought I could read, but I don't know how to do it anymore. But I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the new people who are here, especially the Bradleys, the Adrianas, the Alleys, and everyone else, Paul LeBlanc, everyone who's come here for the first time. Welcome. All of the people who've come here, especially the founding members of Fraudcast University. I tip my hat to thee. You've made my Wednesday so special. It is an absolute blessing to be able to scream from the mountaintops and have some sort of group who will actually like say, okay, Vito, yeah, okay, great. But if you're interested in this and you'd like me to share the deck with you, so maybe you can drive some conversations internally, I'm here for you. Find me on LinkedIn. My link is somewhere in the chat. I am the only Vito Petruzzelli around that's worth talking to on LinkedIn. I can give you that much. So until next week, my friends, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Any questions, come on out, find me. Talk amongst yourselves, be friends, do wonderful things in the world, and watch out for that agentic AI as it comes your way. You heard it here first, my friends. Peace out, and I'll see you soon.